Hello and welcome to the Philippines. Philippines culture shock. How will you handle it? And believe me, I've been here. I've been here a little over 7 years, 3 trips. Lived in Cebu City most of that time, taking other trips around to other islands. I have met a lot of expats, a lot of tourists. I had my own experience in culture shock, even though I had ordered and read several books about the Philippines before I came here. Watched lots of videos, various vloggers, and still when I landed, it's like everything was new. Um, the sounds, the smells, the sights, the people, and the one thing I felt tall. Even though I meet a lot of taller Filipinos than me, I was taller than a lot of Filipinos. Anyway, coming along on this walk, I am downtown on Cologne Street area, Cebu City, the oldest street in the Philippines, apparently, and I'm going to walk up towards Robinson's Galleria, very famous old Catholic church there. Get some big crowds often. And if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so that you get notifications when I do other videos. I usually put out video almost every other day, 2 to 3 a week, covering real estate, cost of living, travel, just general discussions of the Philippines and culture, resorts, and so much more. I had to turn the volume down on that first part of my video because there was a lot of copyrighted music playing out of some of the stores there.
Mr. K, native chicken barbecue.
Yeah, Mr. K, native chicken barbecue. Native chicken here is basically that's what it is. It's not pumped full of. It's more organic, not pumped full of all the hormones, whatever else they give to most chickens to get them to grow big and fat and supposed to be healthier. They're scrawnier, not as much meat on them, but supposed to be healthier. I want to talk a little bit about many of the expats and the tourists who I've met over the years. And boy, I've met people from a dozen different countries, if not more, and young and older, newly retired, people who've never been out of their home country, people who've traveled and worked around the world in other countries. A wide variety of people here that you can meet. Talk about multicultural experience. One question I have is wherever you are in the world, have you moved around your own country? Have you moved to a different city or a different region of your country? Have you experienced changes in culture and food in your own country? My thoughts is that if you have that might help give you an idea, or the fact that you've experienced change in your life might help you adapt. Might not. But one thing I'll say right away: the Philippines.
Cebu.
They've got a new building going up over there, kind of a heritage center. It's going to be a retail commercial building, I think, highlighting some of the kind of I don't know what you'd call it, modernizing or putting in some new buildings downtown. They don't want to change downtown too much, but they do want to clean it up, bring in some new buildings. Jeepneys going by there. There's still a lot of jeepneys here over the last couple of years, especially. They have brought on hundreds of newer, cleaner fuel, less emission buses, but you still have the iconic jeepneys, a lot of those, especially in the downtown area. And that will vary around the country, of course. I wanted to tell you about one of the first expats I met here. He came to Cebu City. He was a subscriber, contacted me, and I took him down to Carbone Market, a big public market not so far from where I'm at right now, just a few blocks, and some of the cheapest food, vegetables, meats you can get. A lot of other public markets come here to buy their stuff as well. But anyway, one thing he said, everybody's looking at me. Everybody's looking at me. And calling him, hey Joe, hey Joe. And he seemed to be uncomfortable with that. It never bothered me from the first time I stepped off the plane. Those kind of things never bothered me. But I have met foreigners that, and especially if you're not American, but you look Western, Caucasian, people say, hey Joe, because of the American military presence here, even though the Australians, New Zealanders, and many other were here as well during World War II, after World War II. He has become a friend, and I haven't seen him, gosh, maybe a year or two ago. He came back over. He went to Iloilo for a while, Iloilo City, and then he moved, I think, up to the north end of uh, Negros Island or Panay Island, and then he's moved another time or two since then, renting a house up there, and hear from him regularly. And he has adapted very well. I think he even has a wife now. There's a few of my friends who come here maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 months, and then they go back to their home country, um, and they're happy with that. They like that situation. I know a couple people who just bounce around to different countries. They come here for a couple of months, go to Thailand for a couple of months, go back to the U.S. for a couple of months, and that works out well for them. They've got ties back in the U.S. or other countries as well, back in Norway, back in Finland, a number of other places. There are lots of options here. You can live in Makati, in the big business districts, commercial, retail, entertainment districts in the Manila metropolitan area, for instance. You can choose one of the other large cities, much smaller than the Manila metropolitan area, like Cebu City, Davao City. Um, they're the two other larger cities, and then you have medium-sized cities. Maybe they're pretty good sized. You've got Iloilo City. You've got Bacolod City. You've got Baguio, which is up in elevation, about 5,000 feet. I think how many meters is that? A couple thousand meters above sea level. Called the summer capital because it's cooler up there. If you live in some of the more modern areas of Manila, for instance, you can be surrounded by modern buildings and shopping and malls and sidewalks and food choices. Once you get out of those areas, even Cebu City, as big as it is, and I've yet to be to Davao City. Somebody had a rear end collision there. Um, Even though around the city you can find various food choices in restaurants and such, not as much as you would find in the Manila area with more choices. Here in Cebu City, you've got a number of kind of built up newer areas like IT Park, which is a city within a city, multiple square blocks, commercial buildings, call centers, restaurants, a couple of bars, and resto bars, I guess you call them, several condominiums. I think there's, what, 3 or 4 condominiums, a couple of hotels in the area, plus a mall right there in that business park. Got Cebu Business Park, which is where the bigger Ayala Mall is, and there again, commercial buildings surrounded by commercial buildings. Um, Several condominiums in that area as well. But at the same time, Cebu City, a lot of the new is intermixed with the old and the poor, the rich and the poor intermixed. It's not zoned like you might be used to in your own country, where you have commercial in one area, retail in another area, residential in another area. Everything is just kind of mixed together. You can have right outside the mall, you can have a poorer area.
What is
Uh,
that?
you
What, Wi-Fi? How do you get Wi-Fi?
You insert some coins
Yeah.
You insert some forms, and then first you need to turn on your Wi-Fi.
Oh.
Then the name of the Wi-Fi will appear. Then after that, you have to click start, and then that's the time that you insert the
Oh,
code.
wow. All right. Very good. That's interesting. I never saw one of those before.
Oh.
What is this? Korean?
No.
Japanese? You speak Japanese?
No.
Oh.
Did I mention friendly Filipinos? I tell you, that's, with when you look at the negative things, and things can get frustrating, just the bureaucracy, the sidewalks in so many of these areas that are kind of an obstacle course. You get frustrated. Takes me. I'm just going through changing my Wi-Fi service from Sky to PLDT, and it's like a 2 or 3 week process. Do this, and then come back in 3 days, and then you got to do this, and then it's anyway. It's frustrating. But every time I get frustrated, I have an encounter with friendly Filipinos, and makes me feel a whole lot better. I know back in the U.S. you get with Amazon 1 day delivery, sometimes same day delivery. With your various services, you might uh, find a serviceman come the same day if you have an emergency. May happen here. You might have a long wait. Back to options. You have the provinces, and every place is a province, but province generally means out of the city a ways into the smaller towns and villages, and you have that choice. If you're a farm boy, I grew up on a farm, but after I got out of college and for college years, and I've always lived in cities and like a good sized city because of all the
Cebu
options.
technology.
And I would say if
Cebu
college
Technological
building across
University.
the way there, Cebu Technological Institute, something like that. A lot of these kids were going over there. Um, Keep your mind open. See, one thing, a lot of the guys I meet from different cities, they live in a particular place because that's where they met their girl, and that's where the girl lives, that's where her family is, and that's why they end up where they are. Nothing wrong with that. But my advice, if you're not tied in with a girl and the family, is that keep your options open. If you and travel a bit when you get here. One guy commented once you've seen one Filipino town, you've seen them all. Well, no, not really, not really. There are differences depending on if you're open, what your attitude is, and there's a variety of places. There are places near the sea, near the mountains. Lots of things to do. I met a guy, I think a British guy, the other day, and he's here for 10 days. Then he's going to go to Kuala Lumpur and maybe Thailand. And I said, well, what are you going to do when you get here? And I don't know. I like to drink beer, so just hanging out and enjoying Cebu City. He had walked quite a bit and walked around and scouted around different areas of the city. And but at the end of the day, he didn't seem to be very interested in visiting other islands, traveling. He just wanted to kind of settle in and relax and have a good time here in the city. Nothing wrong with that. But I recommend a lot of people just when you get here, just like me, I became too comfortable too soon in Cebu City, and one of the things I wanted to do early on was to travel, use Cebu as my base, and got comfortable, and didn't travel for some time. As a matter of fact, all these motorbikes, they're all, I think, students at this technical university next door. Just, gosh, about a kilometer long of motorbikes. Loneliness, one of the most difficult things that some people will experience here or other countries. And the Surgeon General in the U.S. just came out in the newspapers and said loneliness is an epidemic, and it is just as dangerous as many of the viruses and diseases out there for your health. Even with all the friendly people here, and believe me, they are friendly. If you're friendly to them first, that sure helps. You know, if I say hello to a lot of people and stop and talk to a lot of people, that's not everybody's personality. It is mine. And but you can even be in a crowd of Filipinos who you enjoy being around, and yet you can be lonely because sooner or later, good chance, even though many of them speak English, they will start speaking their native tongue, whether it's Tagalog, Filipino, Bisaya, Ilonggo, whatever it is. And you can be in a group of people, and I've been there. I don't get lonely. I'm fine by myself. But if I say something, they're all speaking Bisaya, for instance, and I say something, a joke or comment on something, they listen to me and they laugh if it's funny, so I know they understand what I'm saying. But they're uncomfortable, many of them, maybe two-thirds of them, in a group of, let's say, 12 people, maybe two-thirds of them are not comfortable responding in English, even though they understand they're not ready to speak English. And then, of course, I get asked, "Well, you've been here this long. Why don't you speak the language?" Well, I have tried memorizing words. I don't hear the sounds properly, and I've tried saying the words, and no, that's not right. You don't pronounce it right. And they've got additional letters in their alphabet. They pronounce the vowels and letters differently, so it's different sounds. My tongue does not want to make those sounds, and Filipinos talk so fast in general that I cannot, unless they say a Spanish word.
Are you hobble hobble? Give me a ride to Manila.
If they say trabajo, which is Spanish for work, I'll tell them, yeah, you're speaking Spanish. I understand some Spanish. I am learning to read some, but got a long ways to go. And then the question is, there's so many languages here in the Philippines. Filipino, which is primarily Tagalog, and mixed in with some other Philippine languages as well. And even you go to an ATM, it'll ask you for a choice. Do you want Taglish or English? And Taglish being a combination of Tagalog, Filipino, and English. Because even in Manila, I've seen videos where people go and ask Filipinos in Manila to speak Filipino only, Tagalog, and very difficult for them even to answer short questions without speaking some English. English is the second language here, but my observation experience is that really varies. I've talked to some quite elderly people who speak very good English. I've talked to children that speak very good English, and yet their brother or whatever is very uncomfortable with English, doesn't want to speak English. So some people have a skill, talent, interest, whatever it is, and they pick it up and they use it. I've got my girlfriend's granddaughter, as a matter of fact. She was speaking English back at where they live, and my girlfriend's mother said, "You're giving me a nosebleed speaking so much English." She's a real smart little girl. And then loneliness. The other thing is just, yeah, you're in a different country, different food, different regulations and laws and crazy traffic, and you turn on, unless you've got your own cable television channel with system with a lot of English speaking. If you go to a hotel, they might have primarily Filipino speaking, even some Chinese or Korean, and you get those channels here in a lot of the packages. You get Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Filipino, and then a smattering of English, unless you buy a different type of package that has more of the English-speaking things. I can get, in fact, there's a Japanese English-speaking news channel. There's a French English-speaking. I think it's, I forget the name, something 24. So I can get a lot of English-speaking news channels here, and some of the. In fact, I turned a Western on here the other night, and it was dubbed. They were speaking in Filipino, so you had to turn on closed captioning and read the captions. I was here about a year and a half before it really hit me. I was just so busy enjoying and learning about the Philippine culture, and I walk a lot and travel a little bit. And about a year and a half in, I thought, geez, I haven't found anybody I can have a conversation with about a lot of the topics that I would be interested in. So I sought out some expats where they meet, and it's good to know. I've got this is one of the rivers that they've recently made an announcement that once again, after a couple of years, they're going to try to clean these rivers up. They're considered dead, with almost nothing being able to live in them. And too bad it got to that point, but it did. And this is a lot cleaner than the last time I walked by here. If you do get bored, if you get frustrated, my advice is take a trip. Take a trip. Just get out of town. You don't have to go very far from here, Cebu City. Go across the river to across the channel over to Mactan Island. Stay in a hotel or resort over there. Take a break from wherever you're at. Go to another island. You got lots of islands and ferries and planes to many of these islands. Lots of. Did I mention the friendly people? They see the foreigner coming from a mile, a kilometer away. And so happy and friendly, even in these poor conditions that so many of them still live in. It is quite inexpensive traveling here, so it's easy enough to take a trip, and don't get bogged down. Don't let yourself get bogged down. Change of pace, do something different. Kill the boredom. Those taller buildings way up ahead of me, that is Robinson's Galleria Condominiums. And I've done videos there. I've done videos in dozens and dozens of condominiums. Real estate agents used to grab me in the mall and say, come and look at my condominium. I had a camera, I'd take a video, put it up on my YouTube channel. And so you can take a look in a lot of these condos. And I'm working on a couple other videos about rental prices and real estate, and we'll put that up probably within the next week or so as well. There is a lot to take in here. We all have different personalities. We all handle those things differently. I adapted fairly quickly to the weather. I spent a lot of my time, grew up in the north central part, soundproof generator. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. My business in the U.S. was noise control for many years. Anyway, too cold, too long for me, and I moved to Arizona and Las Vegas, lived in LA for a couple of years, Los Angeles, and so I'm used to the desert. Very hot, very hot. It's not as hot here, but it's more humid. I adapted fairly quickly to that. Anyway, looking forward to your comments to see what your challenges and frustrations have been, how you've adapted, and if you're long-term or short-term here, see you next time.